So I have been thinking about the art design of Soul Reaver 2. Well, vampires in general, really. Take Cain, for example. He's all yellow like a disgusting toenail now, but back when he was first raised, he was all pale, like a corpse. And that kinda makes sense. I mean, unless you think about it too much and you realize that a corpse also gets this thing called livor mortis, where when they lay down, their blood pools at wherever gravity pulls it to and then dries there. If Cain had that, he'd have really red splotchy spots all over his back or something. It would be really ugly. So although Cain doesn't really exhibit exactly the colors of death, why is Vorador green? The ancient race is blue, and Cain was pale as a sheet and had long hair like he lived in his mom's basement for a little while. Then he turned yellow. Why green? When Vorador turned green, was there a period of denial and acceptance? Was he really self-conscious about it for a while? If I woke up one day and I was just green, I would be really worried. I would go see a doctor, or a vampire doctor in this case. Actually, all the vampires take this kind of stuff in stride way better than they should. I mean, Cain wakes up one morning and he's got lumpy eyebrow things in place of where his eyebrows should be, and he doesn't freak out at all. He should though, cause otherwise he's gonna wind up like Zaphon as a giant spider with no legs stuck to the side of a church. You would think that something like turning green might be a warning from your body. Hey, I'm gonna evolve away my legs and stick to a church. Nothing good ever happens when you turn green. And the ancient race was born blue, but I assume that was a bird of paradise type of thing. You know, like whatever vampire is the most blue, he's the sexiest of all vampires, and he gets all the vampire ladies, or vice versa. The vampire ladies get him, I don't know. It always seems like the guys are the ones who are really pretty with the bird of paradise thing. But thing is, there's a huge difference between being born a funny color, and then just turning that color. Vampires are weird. But anyway, let's get back to our game.
Hello, my name is Taylor.
And I am Ray.
And I am Peyton. Look how close we are to Janos' room. Yes, we could throw force projectiles at the door.
Janos must be asleep or something. Otherwise, how does he not hear all this stuff we're doing? I just can't explain it.
Maybe he's not home. Maybe he's got stuff to do. Besides, waiting for Raziel is probably worse than waiting for the cable guy. They just say, try to stay home anytime between now and, eternity?
Well, if Janos doesn't stay home when I'm ready to be here, how am I going to install his prophecy?
I think that as the chosen one, that might be your problem.
Oh sure, it's easy enough to say that, but you know, I have a monopoly on this whole prophecy thing, so if Janos wants his prophecy installed, he better be home when I get here. After all, most cultures do wait for their prophecy, you know.
This is something I never understood, yes. Why do you wait for your prophecy for 2,000 years? Haven't things changed by then?
Depends on the prophecy. Like, if you had a prophecy that said somebody's gonna invent the world's best snack crackers, that could come around anytime.
But if the prophecy is that you deliver cable, yes, then in 2,000 years cable is obsolete.
Granted, our own prophecy is totally obsolete now, since all the vampires are dead, and the Hilden are already escaped, and really, there's no point in saving anyone.
This is why I like only the prophecy of doom, when someone shows up to burn everything down. Yes.
You can't really get your wires crossed with those, huh? I mean, with the prophecies of good things, you never know. You say like, oh, we'll get rid of your ancient enemies. And then it turns out that, like, over time, you eventually make peace with your ancient enemies, and then those uppity teenagers, well, they get married, and then they have babies, and now you are your ancient enemies.
Oh, 'cause the cultures mix? Yeah, that gives that whole prophecy a bit of a dark tone, doesn't it?
Yeah, your ancient hero shows up, and everyone's like, oh, could you maybe not wipe out that bloodline?
So we finally made it. Yes, here we are. In the hallway.
You can just feel the anticipation building up. What is Janos going to look like? What will he say to Raziel?
Do you think he's gonna try not to comment on Raziel being a horrible spooky skeleton?
It should either be the first thing he says, or the second thing. Yes.
Janos Audrin?
Yes, that's so.
What?
When did my zombified thralls learn how to speak?
Oh, I'm not actually a zombified thrall. My name is Raziel.
Really?
I understand I might be your messiah.
Oh, I know that. I was just waiting a long time, and thought you might have a stomach.
There's no time for stomachs, Janos. I need to ask you about my destiny.
To ask? I have the Reaver. I'm glad you're here. You're a bit late on account of everyone's dead, but I'm sure the Hilden haven't won quite yet.
Who are the Hilden?
Seriously? Also, why are we speaking English?
Okay, it's a long story, but first thing is, I'm actually a human turned vampire by the balance guardian of the pillars after the pillars exploded.
Alright, hang on.
He didn't balance the pillars very well, but that's in the future, so all I know is English, and anyway, the balance guardian tried to kill me with the Reaver, but it shattered and became one with my soul.
Oh. Well, that doesn't sound right at all.
I know, I was his lieutenant, right? Anyway, afterward, I chased the Guardian to the past where I discovered the forges and imbued the Spirit Reaver with their power. I have struggled long and hard and have come to you, Janos, to discover my intended purpose.
Alright, back up. What you've just described are several impossible things. When did the pillars explode?
That was after Mobius kills all the vampires. It's okay, we rebound, but then I killed a lot of the vampires again.
Wait, you did? I'm really lost.
Well, I did it because I was mad that I got thrown in the pit of despair, and that's why I look like a zombie.
No, you see, you can't break the Reaver. You can't break the pillars. They're unbreakable things. And now, you've traveled back in time to ask me what our plan is for after the two unbreakable objects have in fact broken.
But I have followed the prophecy to this inevitable destination.
This is a lot to take in.
What is my next step, Janos? How do I play into all of this?
Well, apparently you break all our unbreakable shit is what I'm gathering from this.
Well, was that not in the prophecy? Obviously I'm important somehow. I fixed the Reaver after it broke the first time.
The first time.
It breaks 2 times.
You broke the unbreakable sword twice.
I didn't break it the first time, I fixed it. And the second time, it's only kinda my fault, but because I was hit by it.
Well, how did it break?
Because I'm the chosen one. Okay, is everybody ready? Try to set up quietly so that Janos doesn't get scared and fly away.
You guys, he's gonna hear us.
Is that the Seraphim? How did they get up here?
Well, my wings are all torn up, so I had to blow a hole in your wall and then activate all the stairways.
Good lord, would you just get out of here? I'll deal with you after I deal with this.
A transition occurred, and suddenly I was inexplicably in another room. Apparently it was the Fire Forge.
Okay, now wait, Ray, what?
Okay, now here's what happened as far as I understand. This is a really pivotal part of the game, and obviously they couldn't cut it. But the problem was, the deadline was looming near. The original plan was to have Raziel get hurt and then go into the Spectral Realm, after which he would navigate around and find himself in this room, where the only conduit to return to the normal realm existed. Of course, there wouldn't be a way to get back to Janos unless you unlocked the Fire Forge, so that's how we would do this. But they never did finish that part that you were supposed to go through in the Spectral Realm. They still had to get you here somehow, though, so in cutscene, Janos pushes you, the screen fades to black, and then Raziel just mysteriously wakes up in this room.
No kidding. So you didn't skip anything?
Nothing about how we got from point A to point B, although we did skip something.
I knew it! Yes! Curse you, Ray. Your clever ruse would not escape our scrutiny forever.
All we skipped was a scene where Janos shows Raziel the Reaver, and Raziel remarks that it makes him feel really uneasy. Then he asks Janos to take it away.
Oh, so we passed by some foreshadowing then.
It is just not the same when you merely tell us about it.
Yes. Oh, whatever, the Reaver feels creepy for some reason. That comes later. Right now, we're actually in the most dangerous part of the game. And not because there's any monsters here or anything. It's actually because this is the glitchiest part of the game. When we first started this playthrough, I mentioned that I'd played this game over and over again multiple times. Well, this is the place that I had the most number of problems. I've had some of the weirdest glitches come up here, and it makes me so nervous playing through it.
The entire place is filling with blood, yes.
Oh, come on. You have got to be kidding me. Well, I guess it's official then. The vampires really are terrible people. This is like adding salt in a wound. This is like having a fountain that just spews out, I don't know, oatmeal. And yet they still kill people for food.
I'm not really sure which is more gross. A dragon statue that vomits up blood, or one that vomits up oatmeal. But anyway though, I actually once had a glitch where the statues wouldn't stop vomiting blood. I remember getting to the end, and I put the fire in the hole, but then I turned around and I saw that the blood was still filling up in the room behind me. So I stopped and I watched it to see what it would do, and big surprise, it just filled up the entire room.
So the entire forge just became submerged in vampire blood.
That is correct. So there was no way that I could activate the forge, and even if I couldn't have opened the door to get out of there anyway.
It might have been good to spring a scene from The Shining on the Seraphim, though.
Yes. If only I could have gotten those doors open. I bet a flood of human blood would have really shocked the heck out of them.
This is just absurdly unsanitary, though. I mean, look at that. That's blood. That's disease-causing blood.
I'm curious how they set it up so it doesn't get stuck in all the mechanisms. I don't think that blood and machinery go together very well.
It does not seem very thick for blood, guys. Shouldn't some of it be coagulating?
Well, you would expect some dried stuff floating to the top, you know, little scabby bits.
Maybe it's not really blood. Which gets me to think, what exactly can they do with this magic? What can they make? Like, could they make petroleum?
Well, if it's not really blood and it's just water with food coloring in it, I would assume not much.
If it is just water with food coloring, guys, how do they expect to fool the vampire?
Maybe they don't. You know, I once went to a megachurch with a friend of mine, and when it came time for them to hand out the wine and the wafers, they gave us grape juice and soup crackers. I guess you don't get to be a megachurch by using real wine.
Well, real wine is like $11 for a bottle, then a carton of grape juice is like $5, so I guess it would add up pretty quickly if you had 2,000 people.
Yeah, so like normally the vampires would use blood for their rituals, but this room is so big that they had to fill it up with just fake blood.
But if it is so expensive to fill with blood, guys, then why do they do this in the first place?
Well, they've got to prove that we're the chosen one and that we have the wisdom to have the Reaver to make the room fill with blood so that we can cross to the other side with the torch.
Did they know that Raziel wouldn't have wings? Because in the murals it looks like Raziel has wings.
This is just an obstacle course. Yes, like when you were the child and you went to summer camp.
Oh, dude, did you get to go to one of those summer camps? I always wanted to go to one of those, but my mom was always like, no, Ray, those are really dirty, and you need to devote your energy to something more passive.
That does not sound as your mother, yes. As I recall, she was deeply into the nature things.
She was, but it was always like respecting nature and energy realignment. She tried to get me into it for a couple of years, but it never really took.
Really? What kind of stuff did she try to get you to do?
Oh, it varied depending on what she'd been reading lately, like a Zen crystal garden sort of thing. Which is okay, I guess, but for a 7-year-old, you know.
For the record, yes, the summer camp was fun. At the end of every camp, we had the great water gun battle.
Ugh, see, that's exactly the kind of thing that I always wanted to do. I think Raziel ought to be thankful that the vampire set all this stuff up for him.
Isn't his supposed mentor being presently killed in the other room?
Learn to count your blessings, Taylor. How many messiahs get a cool obstacle course to run through on their way to saving all their believers?
I think it's not many of them. Also, all your believers are dead, except for Janos, who's in the other room, dying.
Vorador kinda believes.
Vorador dies. Not to spoil or anything, but all the history was already revealed. Everyone dies. Janos dies. He died because of the obstacle course.
That's why it's such a silver lining that we get to do an obstacle course. We already know that everybody is gonna die, so we might as well have fun on the way there. You know what we could really use? One of those zip lines.
I guess. It all sounds a little childish to me, but whatever. You're the Messiah. Save the world however you feel it needs to be saved.
Technically, yes. If everyone is dead, then everyone is safe.
Wasn't that the entire motivation for the villain in Final Fantasy X?
Who? Titus's dad? No, Titus's dad just hated Titus.
No, not Titus's dad. I'm talking about that wizard who doesn't wear a shirt.
Lulu? I know she wears all black, but that doesn't make her the villain.
The one that dies but then comes back as a malevolent ghost.
You're still describing like 5 characters, Taylor.
Never mind. The point is, the history books are gonna say that Raziel did an obstacle course instead of saving the last living believer.
No, it's gonna say that Raziel tried to complete an obstacle course in time to save the last living believer, and still failed.
Which is still going to look just as silly in the history books. Yes.
Whatever. We're almost at the Fire Forge, so let's hope that Janos did the obvious thing and flew away as soon as he got attacked.
So this forge makes me laugh just a little bit, because even for the old days, you can tell it was a bit rushed, because it's a little bit underwhelming.
Oh, we've got a little fire orb, 2 fire orbs, bounce around your screen.
Okay, so now what I want you to do is try to imagine that all the background stuff isn't there, and these effects are the only thing on the screen. Can you imagine this as a screensaver? Oh look, it's fireworks! Pew pew, pew pew! The unbridled fury of nature! Pew pew! Capturing all the power of fire to put into your sword. Boom! Flashy screen! And then the Windows logo flies out of the forge!
It's a bit high-end for a screensaver, but I guess I could see it. But now we zoom out, so that we're not looking at the same thing for too long.
With surely not another 7 minutes to spare, I plunged the Reaver into the forge and was swept off my feet. My body was enveloped in flames, but only one thought went through my head. Oh god, my body is enveloped in flames! But the forge quickly released me, and another thought came back to mind. If I was swift, perhaps I could still save Janos.
You cannot.
Yes,
It is all just a pipe dream.
that may be, but Raziel's gotta cling to his little shreds of hope. Anyway, we've already waited 8 minutes, we might be able to wait a little bit longer, cause here's where we're gonna stop for now. Thanks for playing with us, everybody.